Hey everybody, welcome to Stratosphere Lounge. I'm your host, Bill Whittle, and it's yet another edition of the show that everybody's talking about. If you happen to be one of the 48 people who are here watching live, hope everybody's doing well. And obviously, first thing I'd like to say is just thank you all for your very kind words and all of the kind words on the Facebook post, which I think has been seen by almost 90,000 people now. A lot of that was from people who have relatives who are either going through what we went through or been through what we went through or whatever, and many people in the comment section live now offering condolences. So thank you very, very much. And it's been enormous comfort for me, and a special comfort, I think, for my mom's relatives who have kind of went to the Facebook page. All four of us posted something, and Mike is low. I can fix that. Went to the web page and to the Facebook page and saw just volumes of, almost 1,700 comments. So it's just been amazing for all of us, and it's just an amazing family we have here. This family around these ideas that I talk about that certainly are not mine. So anyway, thank you again for all of your very kind words. It means the world to all of us. And as I said, really impressed the daylights out of a lot of people who had known her all her life, and was also a chance. I'm happy to say, for some old kind of family feuds to get happily resolved. Not between me and my brothers or anything, but it was a good. It put me in touch with a few people, and I just realized, I was sitting in the car, I was talking to Tasha about this. I think 9/10 of the problems in the world are really just caused by pride. Pride and a fundamental. I think this second part is primarily kind of an English Anglo-Protestant kind of thing, but just the unwillingness to confront people about this. I'm just going to go away and stay angry for 10 years. So anyway, we'll be going back to visit the big family in Thanksgiving, and that's an enormous load off my mind. It's really great to talk to people who I'd been ticked off at for a couple of years because they did some things that hurt my feelings, and it's just an enormous, unbelievable weight off my shoulders. I remember practically dreading this call. Some relative who I'd had, looking back on it, it just seems so absurd. I'm even surprised I'm talking about it. It was just one of those family disputes, and she called and said she was sorry about my mom, and they were very close, and I was dreading calling back. I really put it off for like 4 days, and then I picked up the phone and called, and the second that she picked up the phone, it was just like that, just boom, gone. All of that rancor and all that stuff just gone, and I just had a half-hour lovely conversation, and when that call was over, I realized, man, I've been carrying this nonsense around for 6-7 years now, maybe longer, and just to have it just go, it was like, whew, that's a nice feeling. To the degree that I can influence you to get in touch with people who you love and family members who you may be having a little feud with, it's just an amazing experience to get that done. And I wouldn't recommend you wait until somebody close to you dies, but it was just a benefit of the the release of my mom from this particular prison, and I feel an awful lot lighter about that too, because it's just you just can't help but carry a certain amount of guilt in your head for, like, how long has it been since I saw my mom last? Has it been 2 years or 3? And at the same time, you know you're going to be flying for 5 hours and get off a plane and get in a car go into this room, assuming even they would have let me in, and there's some old person looking at you, and it might as well have been the next room, as far as that goes. So, Marusha Darka, who's become a real major player in the comment section here, says that my grandma's 95 and still sharper than Biden. I'm glad she's doing okay, Marusha. I don't mean to be a jackass, but it's not super hard bar to clear, if you know what I'm saying. You told me that she was 95 and sharper than Dick Van Dyke, let's say, who I saw as pushing 100 nearly, right? I think I saw Dick Van Dyke not too long ago. He's got this horrible beard, which does not look good on him, but he looked and sounded great. So anyway, thank you to all of you for that. Let's see, in other news here, we've had a lot of website problems, and we've been basically building up tech debt. Now, we got some numbers from our daily number of visitors, and the numbers blew Scott and me away. It just blew us away. I thought on a good day, 700 unique views at BillWhittle.com, 2,000 maybe now since we grew the membership. A couple of days where we had 65,000 visitors a day. Those are big numbers for this website. Unique visitors. So we're going to be, Scott told me not to advertise this, and he's right, so I'm not really advertising it so much as just notifying you, because I'm not going to put any dates on anything. But we are going to we're going to just rebuild a WordPress site from the ground up. This one was lots and lots of tech debt and spaghetti code, where you hire somebody to do something and then the guy didn't do that right, so then you have to hire somebody else to fix the things that he didn't do right, and that causes all kinds of other problems and so on. However, since the comment section, since the forum is down, Marusha here has pointed out that we do have a Discord server, which I am going to click on, and I will try. My memory is not super great. To post it below the Stratosphere Lounge thing. Hang on a second. It wants to know what they should call me, and they're going to find out. So this way I can try to remember to post this at the bottom of every Stratosphere Lounge thing until we get the website going, and then we'll do that. And did I know what's something? We've detected something out of the ordinary. If I don't do it now, I'm sorry for the dead air yet again. If I don't do it now, and it's not going to get done, they're probably going to tell me that I already have a different a screen name here, but we'll see. Send me the code. Here it comes. So, as I said, I'll just put a marker on this. Here it is. Oops, sorry. Oops, sorry again. No, it's not letting me do it. It's probably because I've got a Discord account under a different name. So what I'll do is I'll just try to keep this window open on, and then I'll deal with this afterwards. I've got the link to it anyway, so hopefully that'll help get that done. I was gonna write a bit of water here. Sorry. This Tuesday I was going to record a Moving Back to America segment based on something that somebody sent me. It was just a TikTok put together by a young 20-year-old woman, and it was video footage for one of the we have meteors in here again, for one of the DC police officers. and he was testifying, a guy with a beard, and he was very, very upset. You could tell he was just barely holding it together about how the incredible danger he was in, and didn't know if he was going to make it home to his family. And nevertheless, he stayed on his post while the combat of January 6th continued all around him, and he just did it to save the democracy. And this 20-year-old TikTok person said, as it turns out, he was in Washington on January 6th. And then they showed video of this guy having broken into the Capitol building with a huge Confederate flag. This is the D.C. police officer. It's the same guy. It's the most damning evidence I've seen. It's beyond belief, really. There he is, testifying about how terrible it was, and then here he is instigating, agitating. That's the word, agitating. He's probably the first guy to kick the door down and started screaming, "Let's burn things!" It's exactly the same dynamic as I've seen countless amount of times. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it now. Tea Party's racist. Really? Yes, look at this racist sign. Well, it turns out that progressives made the racist sign. What'd you say in there, Dave? Is this not real? Did I get something wrong? It looked like it was real. This thing was just compelling. I mean, here's the guy on video, and then here he is on video. It's the same guy. There you go. So I was just going to talk about that, and then I saw General Milley from a month ago saying, I don't understand this critical race theory. I don't know what it is. I'd like to learn more about it. I'm going to implement it across the entire Defense Department. I don't really know what it is. Just that's a good start. And then he said, but I want to know why American citizens, I know what false flag was. I thought maybe I got some of the details wrong. I want to know why American citizens stormed this building, and I want to know why this great American catastrophe happened. And my reply will be, because I'm going to record it. I'm going to just record it, and I'm saying, well, the reason that they're there, General, is because of you, because of you, and because of guys like this guy, and because of police officers who were there as part of the crowd, inciting the crowd to do things that they weren't going to do anyway. And then it's also because of the director of the CIA creating files to impeach a sitting president of the United States, who's duly elected twice, in my opinion. And on and on and on and on and on. You want to know why we're there? That's why we're there. It's not white rage, it's patriotic rage. There's a lot of patriotic blacks and Asians and Hispanics. We know that's how you guys like to think about things, because God knows we couldn't think of ourselves as Americans. But nevertheless, they're here because of you. And I just, I just don't know what to say about it. I do know what to say about it. I just don't know what I can do about it. So I was going to write that today, and I just put it off. I'm going to come in first thing in the morning and get it done. And I'm not going to say when, because I know a lot of people a lot, 5, 10 show up to watch it live. I'm not going to say what time tomorrow. I'm going to have to record it tomorrow, because I'm just hoping to do it later tonight. I'm just not going to do it. But this guy, Milley, and then you hear this was all within the same day or so. Well, what are we going to do about these Americans trapped in Afghanistan because you announced that we'd be gone by August 31st? That's always a great thing to do, is to announce your plan. Nothing like that for strategic wisdom, You just send a polite letter to the Reichstag, dear Adolf. Given it a lot of thought and made a lot of preparations, and we got together and decided that June 5th is the day, although we might have to delay to June 6th for the weather. Didn't want it to be a surprise or anything, just thought we'd let you know. Cheers and see you on the battlefield. As I parked the car tonight downstairs, came back from earlier today, and as I parked the car and pulled out, I realized that there's a guy with the bumper sticker that says "Lock him up." There's a picture of Trump on it and a bunch of other things in it. And I began to think, there comes a point when the lie is so enormous and so widespread that I don't know how how you overcome it. It's I'm looking at this car, the puny little car too, his little girly man car. It's like one of those little itty bitty Fiat smart car things, figures. But it's like, heuristic learning is where you learn something simple and then you use that experience, you build new experiences on top of it. And Reagan got it as right as it can get. It's not like these people are ignorant. It's just that everything that they know is wrong. That's actually much worse if you think about it, because if you have ignorant people, you can at least tell them what's the truth. If you got somebody who is certain of something that's wrong, almost all the effort involved is deconstructing and disassembling their erroneous beliefs, which they are now emotionally deeply entrenched with. It's a lot of work. Fortunately, doesn't look like I'm going to have to do this work on my own because of a couple of you, and you know who you are, here in the comment section. After the last show, which we delayed on Friday, so I was up in Salinas stumping for Larry Elder. But after our Friday show last week, I did zoom on over to Dickler Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth's kind of Friday Night Live thing. Basically said hi in the comment section. He gave me his email address over the comment section. And we're going to be doing a show together. I don't know if it'll be more than one, but hopefully more than one. In any event, we're going to be doing it together. And that was fun. It was, there's nothing better than being recognized by your peers, and it doesn't have to be because famous, people say, oh, Bill's very famous. If I'm famous, we're in trouble. But it's always nice when people you admire and respect in your line of work are fans of your work. So, Bill, you get a matching mask. Excellent question, that is. It's an excellent. Well, I don't want a matching mask, but I need to. Maybe I will. We'll see. In any event, he was real pleased to hear from me and just said, it's a real honor hearing from you and so on. So we chatted a little bit about it. As I was leaving I went and introduced myself and stuff, and we set it up, and I was listening to him, and then I was just finishing up some editing, so I turned the volume down on him while I'm just cleaning up some graphics and stuff like that. And I didn't get it very clearly, but just as I was about to leave the studio that night, I thought I heard him saying something about his mom had died and he hadn't really, dealt with it or anything. Pretty sure that's what he said. And so he sent me an email, I sent him an email, and then I got the news about my mom. Then I sent him another email and said, hey, I heard you close your show talking about that, and since you're as powerful as you are and your strategic location at the center of the earth, my mom passed away probably within an hour of him saying that. And I blame you. Anyway, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do something probably next week, I think. Next week, by the way, I'm going to have to reschedule Stratosphere Lounge. I'm going to be just in and out of Nashville, where the fine folks over at Daily Wire want me to come out and talk about more history programming for them, more of the America's Forgotten Heroes, or another new series. That'll be the fourth one, so very excited about that. So I'll probably have to move Stratosphere Lounge to next Friday. But in any event, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something. And when I wrote him back again, trying to get that thing settled up, I actually said, I did just a little, I know who he is. I've been listening to his shows for a long time. I did a little internet search on him because basically I wanted to say to him, hey, I just thought I'd warn you, if you do this show with a known conservative, they may call you a Nazi. And then I basically went over and did some looking at the internet for him. And turns out, as I wrote to him, I said, I was going to warn you about it, but I see you've already cleared that bar for yourself. It's a badge of honor to be called a Nazi by fascists who are so stupid that they don't even know that they're bringing as close to Nazism as anything I've ever seen in this country. Anyway, I'm really, really, really excited about that. Natasha, when I got home that night, she could just tell I was just really pleased, because this is the kind of thing I really want to do. I think it's the kind of thing reaches people who don't otherwise get reached, and it certainly will be a nice kind of a way to transition towards that kind of thing. Parenthetically, the script for the animation has a scene in it where there's this voice coming out from the top of the castle. It's just essentially the voice of evil from the castle. And nobody tell him, because I haven't asked him yet, but I may ask him if he wouldn't mind doing the voiceover for that. That'd be kind of cool, because he is the future ruler of the earth. So anyway, that was really good news, and I'm very, very excited about it. So, yeah, and it's fun because you can. Well, I told him in one of the emails, I said, I've been on this business about the pop culture and politics behind the pop culture for a while now. But to be perfectly honest with you, my lord, I have never had a chance to discuss it with the only other person on the planet that I'm aware of that knows the lyrics to Super Chicken. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, I think of all the things he was singing, show tunes that I typed in on his comment stream. I said, little known fact about these behind the scene things is that finding out that the future ruler of the earth actually just spends his time singing show tunes actually makes him much, much more terrifying. No, not Psycho Chicken. Psycho Chicken is relatively well known, at least it was among that age group. I'm talking about Super Chicken, which was a 3-part cartoon from back when we were both of us growing up, I guess. It was Super Chicken, George of the Jungle, and Tom Slick. And the theme for Super Chicken is really, well, let's just see. Here goes our copyright infringement. I'm virtually positive I have it. Hang on a second. Let's double check. I don't want to do these things now. So, now you get your chance, for those of you not familiar with the here it is. Brace yourselves. Doomcock sang this on the air, a cappella.
When you find yourself in danger, when you're threatened by a stranger, when it looks like you will take a licking, there is someone waiting who will hurry up and rescue you. Just
call for Super Chicken.
And if you're afraid, you'll have to overlook it. Besides, you knew the job was dangerous
When you took it.
He will drink his super sauce and throw the bad guys for a loss, and he will bring them in alive and kicking. There is one thing you should learn: when there is no one else to turn to.
Call for Super Chicken. Call for Super Chicken. How do you argue? Okay, I don't need to hear my Sleeping Bag by ZZ Top. How do you argue with a guy who can sing that song a cappella? I mean, that's a guy who knows what he's doing. And yeah. So when I heard him singing the theme from Super Chicken, I just about lost my mind. I just got all what's the word? Squishy kind of, like fanboy crush kind of thing. I was just impressed as hell. Anyway, he seems like a really, really nice guy. So I'm looking forward to doing that with him. And who knows, maybe through our combined efforts, we can turn this country around and save the Republic. And our reward will be changing the national anthem from the Star Spangled Banner to the theme from Super Chicken. All right. Anyway, so that's about it. One last thing. The animation proceeds glacially, but it does proceed. I've pretty much got it, the first chapter down now. I'm out of the frickin' forest. I'm re-rendering some scenes just to make them consistent, but I've got the whole thing. I've got the werewolf confrontation thing. I've got the insults. My voiceover is infinitely better than what scratch tracks I had before. So I really think by this time next week on Friday, even with the trip, we will be able to show something. The first chapter, one of this broke the script down into 6 pieces because it's about 25-30 minutes almost. So you'll have something to see, and Natasha likes it. That's the main thing. Tiki Rocket wants to know if Harley Cthulhu will be there. I don't know. I expect he probably will. I said greetings to Harvey. And I have a question, an on-air question, which I haven't been. No, I will not be laying out the colonies. So we'll be talking about pop culture. We'll be talking about. He talks about social justice warriors killing the pop culture, and I want to talk with him about why. Why are they doing it? But I did have an on-air question for Harvey Cthulhu, and that is, as you can tell from Harvey Cthulhu, he's a Shriner. He's got a little fez and his little shrine cap. And Shriners go around riding little motorcycles and drive around in little cars in the Shriners Parade. And what I wanted to know was, does Harvey ride in standard-sized miniature Shriner vehicles, in which case it'd be enormous for him, or does he have miniature vehicles that for him to ride around on? These are the things that keep me up at night. Anyway, that's basically it. But it's really coming along, and I'm learning an awful lot of stuff. We're about to move into the second scene, which is the second location anyway. I've been in this damn forest for 3 months now, at least. And I need to get out of the forest. And I keep telling Natasha, honey, you mind if I go and get a little work done? I need to get out of this forest. But I'm damn near out of the forest. And it does look really pretty cool. So we'll see. I did do some motion capture and even did some motion capture of the cleanup, but it just didn't look right. I don't know whether it's just the suit's wacky or whether it needs better cleanup or whatever, but I was able to do everything I wanted to do with stock animations, and I'm getting better at melding those things together. So anyway, blah, 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 there we go. It was fun. Hang on a second. Let's do a little poking around here, shall we? Every single time I say I'd like to give reasons to keep this one brief, and every single time I say that, I find I'm doing some kind of absolute epic. But let's see. I know. Henry and a couple of other people were kind enough to really make this easier on the website. So let me go there first. And then we will go to YouTube, to Facebook. Oh, right, he shut down the forum. We'd been having some serious loading problems, and we don't know what it is, but it's not of our design. I mean, Scott said he did some tests. It was 23 seconds to load a page or something insane like that. So we are on that problem, and we're sorry about the delay with that. So I'll get to that next week. Hopefully we'll have this thing a little more straightened out by then, so we'll just go to Facebook and pay the price for dealing with these miserable little life swine. Facebook, strangely enough, is, when I think about it, is not as restrictive as YouTube is. YouTube are the ones that are really, really out of control here. So let's see what we got. I'm just going to take them as I see them. I got 14 comments here. I'm going to go through them. I'm going to try and do them all, and then I think I'm going to go. Let's see. Yeah, Marish, I got what you said about I know a place for the colonies and stuff. I don't know if it's going to work. It's 200 years in the future, so I'll think it over. The problem with you can find that licensing a particular song costs as much as the entire episode does. That's just how it goes. So anyway, let's just kind of go through these things here. I have not set a theme for tonight, so if there's a theme, it's not my fault. Oh, hey, look, it's Eric Blake. Hey, Bill, sorry I missed the last 2 episodes. No problem. Okay. I'm especially kicking myself for missing the one centered on filmmaking. Anyway, here's a very bizarre left field out of the blue question. My favorite kind. Having set out to catch up on several right-angle episodes, one thing I've noticed is that as the other fellows are talking, you typically look as though you're speed reading something, eyes darting left and right. So, and I swear I can't get this question out of my head, are you reading something, perhaps on the story in question, or is the apparent speed reading just an interesting quirk of mine? If it's the latter, I trust you'll make sure your interstellar persona is going to have this trait. No, I am reading stuff. Usually, like right now, just at the second, and this is relatively 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 windows open. I have this gigantic monitor here. So usually, when to the degree that I do that when they're talking, I'm trying to find things that are. Usually, what it consists of is me being almost certain that I've got something right, but not 100% certain. And then I generally just have to kind of peck around and make sure. So. Yeah, so that's it. It's not a brain lesion or anything else like that, or wandering teleprompter eye syndrome or anything else like that. It's just pretty much a lot of stuff going around. I can certainly look people in the eye for a long time. It's a little harder to look at this little itty bitty little lens here, but I can. Like, for instance, I'm staring at the lens now, but I don't usually do the show staring directly at the lens. I've got a monitor. I've got the output above it. I've got a kind of a larger version of what's going out there to the right. I've got the comment stream stuff off to this side. I've got the Facebook thing off to that side. But here I am looking directly into the camera for, 20, 30 seconds. And I realized that if I were to do the rest of the show like this, I couldn't do it. Oh, see, I just moved. I couldn't do anything because I can't see anything. So anyway, yeah, thanks for asking. But no, I'm actually scanning for information. I ingest a fair amount of information. I don't look at these things. In fact, I found it accidentally where YouTube, not YouTube, your device will track your screen time. Just that alone, I find a little disturbing for reasons I'm not entirely sure of. But I just happened to stumble on this screen when I was trying to get something else done out of the settings or something like that, and I got this little notification that said, "This is for the iPad, I think." Your screen time is significantly down today. It's only 4.2 hours. And I thought, is that all? So, as my wife will tell you, I read a lot. And I find, especially lately, I've been doing my best to stay away from modern politics to the degree that to the minimum that I can still do my job. And I try to find something that I find a little more uplifting and positive and hopeful for American politics. So I read a lot of Warhammer 40K, which cheers me up enormously when I compare it to some of the things I'm seeing going on out there right now. 1 out of 10 of you will get that joke. Warhammer 40K is set in the grim, dark future. There is only war, and it is just it's. I try to figure out what Warhammer 40K really was, and basically it's science fiction gothic horror. It's knights in armor in space and vampires in space, and it's just horror is what it is. A lot of body horror too. I love it. It's just, every time I get some new thing there, I just think, God, this is just fantastic. It's so well fleshed out, and it cheers me up after looking at what's going on in America, kind of on a daily basis here. So let's see here. Martin Archer, hey, you've discussed movies and TV shows innumerable times in TSL. Innumerable is right. All hail the Omnimus. Oh, Marusha, you're impressing me. All hail the Omnissiah. That's very impressive. I was not expecting that from you. Yes, all hail the Omnissiah, who is the machine god worshipped by the Mechanicum of Mars in their dual empire with the Emperor of Mankind, beloved by all. Anyway, Martin says you've discussed TV shows and movies innumerable times in TSL. As part of your branching out with entertainment channels, I really think you can revisit those musings with the Bill Whittle on TV and a Bill Whittle at the movies channels. Might be better to make those one channel, but we'll see. I think that's kind of where I'm going. I feel a spontaneous discussion would work as well as a scripted one, if not better, saving writing time. Whatever it is, it cannot be writing time. It might also be helped with the critical... It might also be helped with the critical drinker treatment using short clips from trailers and however much footage you can use without violating copyright. I imagine TSL is not everyone's cup of tea, and so many of your thoughts on TV and movies may not have been seen by your audience. Well, thank you, and I think that's certainly where we're headed. What was the movie we took apart 2 or 3 weeks ago? We broke down a movie that was after, I think it was after we talked about Kane. And I have to tell you, there was like, that's actually a fairly impressive analysis of that film. What was it? Ford versus Ferrari. Yes, exactly. Ford versus Ferrari. I thought that's actually not bad. That's kind of fun. And certainly I love it. So yeah, we can definitely do that. And it's a nice thing about the Doomcock thing too, is hopefully you get introduced and move around. For me, it's Doomcock, Nerdrotic, and Critical Drinker. And it would be great to get a little help with getting that channel up. But yeah, I hadn't given any thought to Ford versus Ferrari at all. It came up in the comment section. Hadn't given it a split second's thought prior to that. And then, of course, of just discussing it, I thought there's some things in there that were really kind of cool. So yes, thank you, and that's definitely the plan. So do I listen to anything from Mahler? I don't. I don't think I even know who Mahler is. So I guess now I got to look at Mahler. I do know that I don't want a separate. I wasn't trying to be insulting there earlier, Martin, but you certainly want to consolidate these things. So I think there's probably 2 additional channels coming up. One of them is a pop culture channel, and the other one is the Unreal Animation channel. And then when the Colonies is ready to go, that'd be another channel. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that, and that's actually fun for me. It really is. It's a lot of fun, and I'm just thinking about that parking garage downstairs in that car, and all of the things that this guy knows that aren't true, and I just don't know any other way to get through other than to produce something that this guy would want to see because he's interested in whatever beta male communists are interested in, and have him ingest it and so on. And I said, one of my pithier statements is, when we try to get a pill down a dog's throat, Republicans or conservatives will kind of grab the dog between our legs and reach down and force its jaw open and shove this pill down its throat, and then the dog goes running off to the hills, and next time you shake the pill bottle, the dog is as far away from you as it can, and the left just takes a big piece of bacon, wraps the pill in it, tosses it in the air, dog chops it down and waits immediately for another pill. That is where I would like to go, and the problem is basically convincing enough BillWhittle.com members that that's worthwhile. That's the fundamental problem right now, really, to be honest with you. There's a lot of people who paid for what they're paying for, and I'm doing my best to give them what they're paying for. And I think that this animation thing will be enough to convince most people that this is, at least they'll see the potential value in it. And I've been talking about it for so long, but it's so hard to imagine. But I think when people see it, they'll get an idea. And I very much like to be able to, not only spend more time doing that, I also would like to have a bit of a staff. That'd be nice. So we'll see. But yeah, that was fun, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And I'm hoping that this show with Doomcock will be a good kind of an introduction to that sort of thing. We'll see soon enough, I guess. Steve Young, should the United Nations in conjunction with the U.S. State Department? No. Next question. I didn't even read the. Should the United Nations in conjunction with the U.S. State Department demand open access to cross every nation's airspace in the region of Afghanistan in order to facilitate the peaceful evacuation of U.S. personnel and Afghanis under our corpus of protection and establish the new state without further humanitarian damage? I will answer that somewhat more slightly and at least more emotionally by saying I don't know or care what we do with the State Department or the United Nations. If I was Commander-in-Chief, I would have all of our assets, still retaining enough to defeat the rest of the world combined. You never know what they'll be up to. But we would own, well, if I was in charge of this, we wouldn't, I don't have a date for it. For people asking about the Doomcock show, we haven't set a date yet. We might tape it next week. Or do it live, I don't know. But anyway, I'm looking at this. I'm hearing the Secretary of Defense saying, well, we don't have the capability to secure a perimeter around or we don't have the capability to go out into Kabul and look for Americans. Really? That's interesting. We'll pay you $700 billion a year to have that capability. And if you don't have the capability, I think we could cut probably $695 billion out of that budget. If we can't use it, if it's not there, if you're telling me your woke military can't secure a perimeter around an airport in a third world country, then maybe we need to re-examine what we've been spending these trillions of dollars on. Because frankly, for a very, very, come on, come on. I hear that. Well, first of all, allow me to. I need to bow my head. I've heard that Doomcock is here in the Stratosphere Lounge, and I don't want to. I just I'm just extremely nervous that I've been looking directly at the camera this whole time, without even really knowing. In any event, thank you for making the journey, my lord. That's what 4,000 or 5,000 mile trip in an elevator. That's an awful long way to come just to watch this show. Well, if it's true that you're here, we've been talking about you, my lord, and in very glowing terms. Hail Vectron, as we like to say around here. No, we're just very excited about it, and I think, the people out there who are like constantly wondering, it's like, why are we destroying Star Trek? You can say, well, you want to destroy, was I wrong? We want our woke Star Trek. Okay. And it's going to destroy the franchise. Okay. So why are we going to do it? Why aren't we looking at the bottom line? Why aren't we producing? Why are we letting our ideology trump our common business sense? And in order to understand that, you really have to understand the whole thing. Frankfurt School, the critical theory, the whole idea of the division of the country into tribes, the whole idea of undermining the mythology. The one thing Doomcock understands, and the reason he gets as angry as he does, my lord Doomcock, I meant to say, big part, is that it's not just somebody's making a bad movie. It is an intentional attempt to destroy the mythology of a people. Their entire mythology of a people is what's there. And it's being attacked, and the destruction of the mythology is more important than anything else. So if we have to throw billions of dollars into a hole like Discovery or Picard or whatever, anything that we can do that destroys the mythology of individualism, which is the only thing out there that has been and continues to stop these swine from taking over everything, then that's it. So yeah, that's it. And I'm looking forward to talking about this idea, because I was thinking about this whole thing with Mikey Spock. It's like, not only is she a Mary Sue, but she's Mary Sue, a sister of Mr. Spock. So why did they do that? The real reason they do it is because in order to create a character like Mr. Spock, that's the result of years and years of hard work. You know what the problem with hard work is? It's hard. That's the problem with hard work. And so becoming a SEAL is hard too. And there are people out there, and I'm one of them, who admire SEALs enormously for their heroism and their endurance and all the things they go through. And the more of it that you understand, the more of the anguish and hardship that they go. And I'm including everybody, obviously, Marines, Navy, Army, not the Air Force that basically just sits around sitting in air-conditioned Quonset huts and then going out to your air-conditioned jet. But seriously, the more you know about what they went through, the more valuable that image is. And so people out there who see the respect that are given to SEALs, and they want that respect for themselves, and so they dress up like SEALs, like Navy SEALs, and they wear Navy SEALs uniforms, and they go into Subway, and somebody says, "Oh, you're in the military?" Yes. I was a Navy SEAL. You're a Navy SEAL. Well, here's a free. It's not that they want the free subs. It's that they want the adulation, but they don't want to pay for it. That not only do they not want to pay for it, they can't. They cannot do it, so they steal it. That's why they call it stolen valor. It is an attempt from people who have not paid the price for the respect that a uniform brings, and they simply just wear it. And it's stealing. It is. It's stealing. It's exactly why it's such a great term. That's exactly what they do with Ray Skywalker and Mikey Spock. It's stolen valor. We're going to take somebody who hasn't been through anything, hasn't deserved any respect, and we're going to put him in the uniform of somebody who has earned respect, and we're going to basically say that see, no. Not only doesn't it work, but it doesn't work, and it's evil. And not only that, see, there's a lot of reasons for why they're trying to destroy the American culture and the whole woke agenda. But the simple main reason is that they don't have the talent to do anything else. That's it. Really, when it's said and done, that's it. The reason that they're hitchhiking on the back, it's exactly like the creature from, oh my God, I used to know the name of every Star Trek episode. And, the immunity syndrome, maybe. The flying rubber pancakes that land on the back of your neck and take over your brain and stuff. Well, that's what they are. They're these flying rubber pancakes that take over. I'm talking about the writers and producers of abominations like Discovery and Picard and Last Jedi. They wander around, and then they find something that's got a lot of a cachet and a fan following, and they just attach themselves to the back of that thing and start moving it around and expect people to continue to follow. And the reason they do that is because they are not talented enough to make their own. They can't do it. They could have started, look, if somebody could have started a brand new Star Trek series and made a success out of it. The Next Generation was not, Jean-Luc Picard was not Captain Kirk's nephew. They didn't have to, no, they had some talent, and they went out and just created a new universe. They set it in a universe that had a cachet of respect, but that's great. The reason that you're a fan is because you love the universe, and as long as you're true to the rules of the universe, then that works. So, they just can't write, and the reason they can't write is because I'm not going to turn this whole show into this because I've got some other questions to answer here, but essentially, if you're an adolescent, and they are, all of them, they're children, they have the emotional makeup of children. When you are an adolescent writer, when you are an adolescent writer, in the very early stages of learning to be a professional writer, you will go through this phase, and this phase is the phase of, okay, I'm finally writing, and I've got everything set up, and I've got the guy sitting in the bridge, and now I've got the USS Certainly not the Bill Whittle, because that would be egotistical, but on board the USS Will Biddle, let's say. And now here's the captain, and this is my voice, and this is what I've always wanted to be. I've always wanted to be the captain of a starship, and now I'm going to have a chance to speak as a captain of a starship. I'm writing my script, and it's already been bought, the episode, and so on. And so here's the character that represents everything I want him to, that represents all my values. And if I, Operation Annihilate, thank you. And if I am an adolescent writer, then I'm not going to want anything bad to happen to that guy, because that's me. And I want his message to come out. So I'll make him all powerful, and I'll make sure that he's heroic and he has no flaws and all the rest of it, because this is the best me. This is the best me. This is what I believe. And an adolescent writer is incapable of tarnishing their own voice so that it becomes a real person. But as you get to be more experienced, or if you have more talent, and God knows there's a shortage of talent on these people too, then you realize, no, you have to do these things. You have to dirty them up. If you don't dirty them up, then there's nothing for them to come back from. There's nothing for them to become. The reason people love Luke Skywalker is not because he lifted the X-Wing up out of the swamp. People love Luke Skywalker because he didn't lift it up out of the swamp, because he failed. And everybody saw that moment. It's like, oh, here it comes. Back down. And every single person watching that moment said, that's what would have happened to me too. I wouldn't have made it either. I'm not good enough. I'm just I thought I was a Jedi. This is what people in the audience are thinking in real time. Yeah, of course he didn't lift it up. No one can lift it up. Only this little magical green goblin can lift it up. So he fails. And then he goes out and fights Darth Vader anyway. That's why they can't get there, because they don't have the self-confidence needed to put their own voices in the mud so that they can come out of the mud. Nope, can't do it. And they're just bad writers. Just bad writers. Looking, I didn't go see it, but I've heard some people, Drinker and so on, basically breaking down the plot to Black Widow. It's like, what? And maybe the ultimate form of stolen valor is this Loki thing, right? It's like, oh, we got Loki. Well, he's at least interesting to look at. The actor's great. He's fun. So even if the show sucks, at least we get to watch him be Loki. I could watch him be Loki, read out of the phone book back when, well, assuming we had a phone book, but we don't anymore. So even that would be actually something to see. I'd actually pay money to see anybody read anything out of a phone book now, because there aren't any phone books. It'd be a nostalgia trip for me. But you know what I'm saying. So you think, okay, great, Tom Hiddleston. But no, he's just there to introduce the female Loki, who's the star of the show. And it's all just plain wishful thinking. It's little tiny little women with metaphorically pink hair and nose rings, seeing guys like James Bond smacking guys in the face and driving fast and shooting guns, all of the things that they despise, all of the things that they want. They know they can't do them, and so they simply just fiat it into existence. 21 or 24, whatever James Bond novels have established this guy as smooth and cool and controlled and deadly. Well, I can't be any of those things, and I can't make a character who is. I can't write a new character who's going to do that. So what I will do is I will intimidate studio bosses, and I will make my picture of me, some black woman now is going to be James Bond. Well, she's not, because James Bond is not a black woman. James Bond is an English male, heterosexual, exceedingly heterosexual, I might add. And I want to know why we can't have our own little, everybody else gets their own little section of culture. Can't the 20 or 30 of us remaining, in the world, the 30 some odd remaining heterosexual males, can't we have a little, thing for ourselves? James Bond doesn't work if James Bond is gay. If you want to write a gay superhero, or you want to write a gay agent, that could actually be very interesting. But again, it's hard work, and The problem with hard work is hard. And Dave Big Booty hits it right on the head. It needs to be said because I don't want to be misunderstood about this. Here's Dave verbatim. A black woman can be an MI6 agent with a 00 rating, but she can't be 007. Correct. But they're not selling it as 006. They're selling it as 007. And there it is, right? There it is. It's stolen valor. It's unearned respect that is taken at gunpoint. It's not like Gene Roddenberry and Leonard Nimoy and all the people that made Spock into an amazing character. And not to, by the way, speaking of the quality of writers, I wanted to mention this before too. You had people like Harlan Ellison and virtually everybody that wrote for the original series were established science fiction writers. The people that are writing science fiction now don't like Star Trek, and they don't like science fiction. Forget about the fact they haven't read any of it. They just don't like it. That's why we can have sonar in space, and why we can have a guy who has a temper tantrum basically send out a ray that destroys all the lithium in the universe, and stuff that is not just absurd. It really is kind of a, yeah, you think we're finished with rubbing your nose? You ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen nothing yet. You love your little dilithium crystals and your little transponders and your transporters and your little tricorders and all that stuff that actually came to be because of things like Star Trek. Pfft, no, we're going to take all that away. By the way, interesting, isn't it? That I can't even say the words in the same sentence. Isn't it interesting about the spore ? The drive that they have on the Discovery period. See, two sentences, because I can't say those two things, spore drive, at the same time. Isn't it interesting that that's really not technology? Don't you find that kind of interesting? It's like, oh, there he is. I think that might be him. I hope so. Guy with the hair. I have a suspicion that maybe we haven't seen the hair on account of the mask. In any event, if it is who I think it is, as I said, I avert my eyes. But don't you see how indicative it is of the avoidance of the work necessary? So when you start with, like the original series, you've got a warp drive. How does it work? Well, it uses dilithium crystal. What's a dilithium crystal? Interesting term, isn't it, dilithium crystal? Because there is an element called lithium. It's not the unobtainium crystal. It's a form of lithium that's in a crystalline form. Sweet. Well, I guess we'd have to go find that. Fantastic. And it has the ability to do certain things in concentrate energy. I'm on board. Great. And all of the engineering that takes place in Star Trek in the original series and all the way down through everything else, all of it is stuff that you have to know the fundamentals about, Well, why don't we just travel faster than the speed of light? Well, because it's impossible. How are we going to get around that? Well, we're not going to travel faster than light. We're going to take a little bubble of space with us, and that's how we're going to get around it. Now you've got these people who don't even know whether the Civil War or World War II, which one came first. They're trying to write science fiction, and so the spore drive is like this perfect example of it, right? It's like, it's not a technology. It's a thing. It's all you have to do is go out and put it in a jar, and it will take you anywhere you want to go magically. And the reason they love it is because engineering is hard, and writing about engineering is hard. And in order to write about engineering, you have to have some kind of an education. These people don't have any education. They're idiots. So it's stolen valor. It's connecting yourself with heroic figures that you haven't earned in order to get the reaction of a person. Hey, I'm a Navy SEAL. Are you really? Well, no, I just dress like a Navy SEAL. Because it's easier to dress like a SEAL than it is to be an actual SEAL. Much easier. So there they go. And all this stuff it's all intended. If you really step as far back from it as you can, and even like remove the politics from it, what this is a coup on the part of people that have no talent and no ability to convince you that they do by wearing the cloak, the skin really, of characters that have been beloved characters because of all of the work that went into them. All of it. How many, that'd be an interesting question. And it's an answerable question. I just don't know the answer to it. How many writers, just forget the directors and all the rest of it, how many writers touched the character of Mr. Spock prior to Discovery? How many? How many writers? So we had, 72 episodes on the original series, and a couple of those had the same writers, but not too many. Did 72 episodes on the original series. He appeared a bunch of times in movies. He appeared in a couple of episodes of Next Generation. So how many writers touched Spock and made Spock into Spock? How many? 80? 79 episodes? My God, I am fading. I used to know the name of every one of them. 80 maybe? 80 writers? 100 maybe? How many of them? Okay, so what 100 writers have done over 20 years is not something that you can do in an afternoon. But they want the glory. And the reason that they make Mikey Spock related to Mr. Spock is because writing a new Mr. Spock is hard. It's very hard. And they don't have the talent to do it. Not even close. Don't have the talent. Don't have the desire. They don't have the background. That's all too much work. And that is something that they're not interested in doing. There you go. So anyway, I don't know how that has much to do with Afghanistan humanitarian damage, but I've already given my thoughts on that. I would just put a cordon down there. I would just basically, nobody gets inside the circle, and we're going to push this circle out, and we're going to push this circle out until we get to the edges of Kabul, and we're going to keep looking. And if one of you fires one shot on us, we're coming back, and we're not coming back on the ground. You can sum up my attitude about the defense of the United States very simple, really. My attitude about defending the United States is don't piss off the sky gods. That's it. That's all. That's all you need to know. Don't piss off the sky gods, because if you do, you will pay for it. I know I'm back and forth all over the place as usual, but Bandit 848 said Data was Spock with some imagination. I personally like Spock better than Data, but that's a classic example. Data is a character who is a real character, and hundreds of people worked on him, and he it's an exact example of the kind of thing that Discovery doesn't do. They could have just said that this. They could have just basically said, here, this is Spock's brain. See what I did there? Inside a robot. And could have done the whole stolen valor with him, but basically with Data, they started from scratch. Yes, he's unemotional, but he's utterly different than Spock, and as a result of good writing and great acting, they turned him into a really fully fleshed out, interesting character. Really interesting character. And so it can be done, but it takes time and it takes talent. And they don't have either. They don't have the talent, and they don't want to invest the time. Yeah, and let's make Spock emotional, as somebody points out in the comment section here. Let's make him emotional. I'm so embarrassed because, like I said, I knew all of these things. Is it the Paradise Syndrome where they go to the in the original series where they go to the resort planet, and Spock gets this face full of spores, and he's laughing and joking and so on. That was interesting because it happened once. This side of paradise. Thank you. It's great having an encyclopedia with us. It worked because it happened once. It showed you, by seeing the emotions underneath Spock once, what it did was it showed you how much Spock is actually suppressing in every single other episode. That's the thing about it. That's why it worked. It's okay. So he's actually laughing, and yeah, all this stuff. Does Spore give it to him? No, it just basically removed his inhibitions. So Spock really is the kind of guy who likes to laugh and hang upside down from trees? Apparently, yeah. So now all of a sudden, we realize, holy crap, this guy Spock is just think about, no wonder he's so tight. He's got to keep all this stuff in. That's great. But when you decide to make him into an emotional character, then you have essentially utterly inverted what the guy is. There is no point of being Spock, and no point of being a Vulcan for that matter, who is emotional. That's not what's interesting about that. Nothing. It's like he used to be a Vulcan, and now it's some guy. It's some guy at the 7-Eleven joking and laughing and doing this, and he's got the hots for this person or heard the hots about that. Stop it. It's just not even. They know what they're doing, but unfortunately for them, so do we. So let's see. Moving on. Susan Speakman, Bill, condolences on the loss of my lovely mother. Thank you again, and thanks again for all of you. If you came in late, all of the stuff on the Facebook page is just simply amazing. How are you coping? Would you share some mom stories with us? I'd love to share some mom stories with you. I'm coping very well. I'm coping astonishingly well, and I think that's just an indication of how much of a burden this is. Just this sense of like, I feel like I should do something. Well, there's nothing you can do, Bill. My beautiful wife feels the same way. Her mom is a long way away and got exposed to the unknown virus of unspecified origin. And it was pretty worrisome for a while there. She seems to be out of the woods now, and my wife is just filled with all this guilt that she hadn't been there and hadn't seen her, and why didn't she go? And I have to just sit down every time and say, honey, it's not that you didn't want to go. It's not that you're a bad person. You couldn't go. There was no sense and it was not worth the risk for you to go back to Russia until you were a U.S. resident alien, until you had a legal right to come back to this country. I don't want to risk it, and you didn't either. And then as soon as that card comes in, here's COVID. So it's not like you didn't go, it's just you can't. So you feel this enormous weight of things. But yeah, I'll give you a quick story. I'm going to post some more pictures, but I can certainly do one here. So take a look at this. This just happens to be on my desktop. I won't bore you with fishing for others. I'm going to do a picture post as soon as I have a free moment. But take a look at this this picture here. I love this picture. Come on now. So that's my dad and my mom. I want to say this would be about 1967, somewhere in there. Now, as you can see, my mom just got back from a tour of duty on board Moonbase, scanning for incoming UFOs. But I just think that it's just the coolest look. Maybe now I know why I just like those Mylar suits in Lost in Space, and I always thought the Mercury suits were the coolest of the suits. So there's a lot about this picture that I really like, and there's a lot of it that I think is kind of interesting. First of all, she looks fantastic. And the silver, and then the silver stockings, and then the silver jacket that my dad is holding on to. All that stuff is really, really cool. But the part I like the most, actually, is this. Take a look at my dad's expression here. He does not know what to do with this. You know, they're going down to an event at the hotel. They had, there would just be manager cocktail parties 3-4 times a week. Sometimes they'd hold them at the house, but they're on their way down to an event at the hotel, or some kind of event. And he knows he's got this absolute beauty with him, and she's not only beautiful, but she's incredibly well-spoken, intelligent, British accent, all of that. So he's walking in, he knows he's going to be walking in the room with this absolute knockout, which is an experience that I've been having for 5 years now. But you can also tell from the look on his face that he doesn't really quite know what to do with this. Honestly, it's like, I'm taking this space pixie to a party. She's going to blow the room away, but I've never dealt with a space pixie before. And he's got the cigarette, of course, because that's what men did back in those days. When I think about my dad, I don't get to experience, they say smells are so evocative because a smell goes directly into your brain. And that's the only sense we have where the stimulus actually contacts your brain. But I will say that when I think back on it, my dad smelled of Old Spice and Vitalis. And I don't get to smell either of those anymore, but that's not a bad smell, folks. It's a pretty groovy, swinging kind of smell. Since that was so much fun, let me just see if I'm not going to do a whole lot of dead air again. Let's see if I got anything handy. Just real quick here. What do you know about this? Sure, why not? This actually makes me happy. Okay, so this is my favorite family picture ever, which I call Four Swingers. And I will tell you why I like this picture, why I love this picture so much. On the left is my father, then my mother, and then next is my dear, dear Aunt Marty, who is my father's older sister, and on the far right is my dear, dear, dear Uncle Rock. First of all, I have an Uncle Rock. He died not long after my dad, back in 2002 or 3. But I have an Uncle Rock, and I always will. Just that alone is cool. But there's so much about this picture that I love. I was talking with the relative I mentioned earlier, who was one of the kids of Marty and Rock. And I was telling her, when I was a boy, I was fooling around, poking around in my dad's bedroom, because that's what boys do when you're 11. I will add that I also found his revolver, which he kept up in the top of a closet. And we didn't play with the revolver. You know why we didn't play with the revolver? Just because we were 11 years old and we found this gun there. We didn't play with the revolver because we'd been told from the beginning of our lives that you don't play with revolvers. And furthermore, having owned BB guns and just spring action Daisy Winchester BB guns, and then we went to to the pump action guys, the ones with that kind of weird sort of pivoting thing. You pump it, 8 times and it fires off the BB. And if you pump it 8 times, then if you pump it 60 times, it's got to be that much better, right? But we never did have the guts to move up to the next step, which of course is the deadly pellet gun. And the pellet gun, of course, is an entirely new level of lethality because, as was made clear to all of us, unlike a BB gun, a pellet gun will break the skin. So we didn't really do that. But back to this awesome groovy picture here, if I can find this awesome groovy picture. Where'd it go? Not you. I'm gonna have to bring it in again. That's okay too. Fine, I'll just drag it in again. So here we go, Four Swingers. So check it out. So here's my dad, my mom, my Aunt Marty, and my Uncle Rock. And the reason I love this picture is just so much coolness here. First of all, just you can immediately tell the difference between my dad and my mom and my Aunt Marty and my Uncle Rock. Forget about how they look, but just look at the clothing, right? Marty and Rock lived in Germantown. They lived on Germantown Pike in Pennsylvania, right above Plymouth Meeting Mall. And they're the most solid people in the world. But my mom and my dad, on the other hand, they were fashion plates. They were glamour hounds. And my dad always had been, and my Aunt Marty had always known that my dad was always kind of the charmer of the thing. So there's like a dividing line between the two of us here. But Marty and Rock were just big-hearted people in a way that my parents really weren't ever. They're just big-hearted people. You visit them once a year in Pennsylvania, and the door would open, and you get out of the car, 10 or 11 years old, or younger, 7 or 8 years old, and we stopped by at their house. The high point of my year was making the annual trip to the States and going to Pennsylvania. You get out of this huge car, which we didn't have in Bermuda, and then you would step out into their front yard, and it smelled of pine trees and granite, and that's what America smells like to me, because the front of their house was fronted with granite, and I love them. And the thing that is really kind of hard to appreciate is if you look behind them there, you can see the spiral staircase. I know exactly where that staircase was. Went up and down that staircase 1,000 times. Directly behind my mom are these hanging lamps, and those lamps hang down from the ceiling of the upper room, so they're on long cables, and it's just cool, you know. It's just really, really cool. And anyway, I was talking about poking around in my dad's bedroom, and well, I wasn't playing with the gun because that's dangerous. I did find some papers when I was 11 or 12. I found a copy of his will, which is an odd thing for you to find when you're 11. But I noticed in the will it said that should something happen to my mom and dad simultaneously, that the four of us would go and live with Marty and Rock. And I just thought, okay then. I'm not saying I'm going to loosen the lug nuts on Dad's car. I'm just saying that was a real nice feeling. It was just nice to know. Let's see here. Yeah, let's just start a conversation. This is probably from, come on now. This is probably from 7-8 years before she met my dad. This is my mom and her BOAC. I almost called her a flight attendant. She was actually a stewardess. And that's the person who was in all the newspapers for heroism when the Stratocruiser lost 3 engines over the North Atlantic. And that's not something they had to deal with before. I noticed she also has, and I remember her putting it on. It's a strange beauty thing. I never understood it, but the little mole dot that Marilyn had, and Anne Francis has it in Forbidden Planet. You get the makeup right, and it's kind of like dink. Okay, but yeah. So she's this plane's going down on Christmas Eve in December, North Atlantic, pretty close to where the Titanic goes down. If they're in the water, they've got maybe they've got 10 minutes. And they were going down. And so she, of the things she told me about that experience, one of them was, let me just move over here a little bit. Sorry, there we go. One of the things she told me was that she had the idea that there were a couple of children on board the flight that were unattended children, and that beauty mark, that's what they call it. And she wanted to keep them busy, so she got some pencils and some paper and handed it out to these children who were flying on their own, and basically said, okay, I need you to make a log of everything. I want you to make here's my watch. Took off her watch, and I want you to, anytime the captain says anything, I want you to write down the time, and I want you to write down what he says. It's going to be important later when we get back, and and we go over what happened out here. And basically, she said she did it because she wanted them to have something to do, to be thinking about something other than the fact that they're getting lower. The other thing that I thought was hilarious was she was a quick thinker. So they knew that they were going down into the water, and they had a significant amount of liquor on board because it was a 18-hour flight or something like that from New York to London. And so she thought it would be smart to bring some of that alcohol with them to keep them warm in the water. Now, as it turns out, I think I read that actually drinking alcohol makes you lose heat faster, but it was widely believed that alcohol would keep you warm, and one of the people that survived the Titanic survived in the cold water forever because he was completely lit. So she's obviously getting the things together and all these things, but she thinks that alcohol would be good to keep people warm while they're in the rafts and all the rest of it. But there's no place to put the alcohol, so she starts pouring it into some of the excess life preservers. They had a couple of extras, so she's pouring brandy and whiskey and stuff into these life preservers because it's flexible. You kind of just toss it in someplace, and now you got something to keep everybody warm. And when they restarted the engine and they diverted to Gander, the head steward found out about this, and he about had a cow. And the reason he had a cow was because as the people were getting off of the airplane, virtually everybody smelled a little bit like, like whiskey, and they were pretty concerned that, that everybody thought that the whole flight crew had just sat out there and gotten completely smashed. But that's not exactly what happened. So let's see if I can find a couple other quick ones. That one. There's a picture that I've got somewhere. Oh, okay, so I got some family pictures here. Why not? It's a good time to do it. Here we go. Here's the... that's a great picture, Stevie. Where did that picture go? Oh, there it is. Okay, so here we go. Here's another one. Stand by. And I'll just turn that off. Good to see you, Mom. And here's one of the FAMs. You may notice the location is pretty much exactly the same. We're right at that, right at the staircase underneath all of that. That's my dad. Behind my mom, that geeky-looking dude is going to go on to become a living legend and the voice of a generation. My mom, my brother Steve, is in front of my dad. My sister Melanie is newborn, and it's my brother Evan there with our little blazers, and we were always all dressed up. I like the look on my dad's face there. I just think that says a lot. I thought that was a pretty nifty picture. Hang on, I got a couple others. I'm enjoying this. I'm glad somebody suggested this. Where is it? Here. This one we got relatively recently. I think this one's sent to me by my sister Melanie. I don't remember having this picture until just a few days ago, and obviously we're trading a lot of pictures back and forth. Come on now. Was that you? Yeah. This is a little later. Still taken in Bermuda. But here's the FAMs again, and my sister was the one who told me about my mom passing away, and I got a little laugh out of her, which I always try to do. So there's my dad. That's me on the left. And there's Steve behind my mom. There's my little brother Evan. And Melanie, my sister, sent me this picture, and that's Melanie on my mom's lap. I like the expression on my dad very much on that picture. It's kind of how I remember him, too. But looking at the picture of Melanie, I got this picture from her, and I texted her back, and I said, Melanie, you look like you just found out you're about to be audited by the IRS. Because that's kind of what she does, in fact, look like. She looks like she's just gotten the notice that she's about to be audited by the IRS. Bermuda shorts. That was the uniform. That's it. And we would be in our little suits and ties. Typical Steve not wearing his ties, and Steve never liked having his picture taken. But there, and I think I got one more I can do, and we will move on a little bit. This one, yeah. Here you go. I remember when this picture was taken. So this is in the Bermuda room at the Sinesta Beach, at the Carlton Beach Hotel in Bermuda. It was the cocktail lounge there, and there we are drinking our Shirley Temples with our straws. There were up above us. There were these tiny little pinhole lights that had pink light coming down. I remember asking my dad, "Why are the lights pink in here at nighttime?" And he said, "Because it makes people look good." And I thought, okay, that makes sense. So there's a hotel manager on the right. There's my mom, a fashion plate as usual on the left, and there's Stevie on the left and me in the middle. I look like I was just awarded third place in the high school clarinet competition or something. But we were always dressed in little We had our jackets on, and we were just little gentlemen. I am actually. I'm going to see if I can find it real fast because I don't want to spend a lot of dead air time. But there's one picture that does, in fact, blow my mind. Here, this is not the picture, but it's one that I can add since you asked. Same kind of thing. This is a close-up of a larger picture, but that is my Aunt Sally, who is no longer with us. My mom and my dad, and the person on the right is my grandmother, who my brother Steve and Evan will both track me down and kill me because they just adored her. But oops, sorry. I just never liked her. She scared me. She really did. But yeah, that's how I grew up. I was down at that hotel probably 4 or 5 times a night, and this is what my parents looked like to me. When we would have these cocktail parties at the house, the manager cocktail parties up at the house, and Steve and I and Evan, to some degree, we would go through this crowd of people and a couple of little celebrities there, when I say relatively little celebrities, I'm talking about guys like Enzo Stuardi, I remember, and Mr. Green Jeans, which was a major celebrity, of course. I didn't mean to insult him. But we would just go around and just have little trays. Would you care for an hors d'oeuvre or anything like that? And so I just remember watching my mom and dad just kind of gliding. That's the best word for them. Just they would just glide. Anytime there's any kind of, not even at the house, at the hotel, any kind of a disturbance, anything that's not pleasant and soothing and relaxing and the kind of place where you'd want to spend your vacation, they would just glide in that direction and it would just kind of go away. There is one photograph that defies imagination, and I'm trying to find it because, frankly, when I saw it, I couldn't believe it. And it's going to take... hang on. Speaking of family resemblances, this is my grandfather. My middle name is Alfred. This is Alfred Potts, who would later become Alfred Potts OBE, Order of the British Empire, for his work in Royal Naval Intelligence in the years following World War II. My grandfather, who you see here, in the years immediately, it served with the Royal Marines during World War II, and in the years immediately after, when Britain was still a major power, they had this map of the Mediterranean, and my grandfather and a few others would be moving hundreds of these little wooden blocks that represented certain ships. And this is obviously, needless to say, way before GPS. And so got to the point where my grandfather had watched these motions for so long in the Mediterranean, he could just look at a ship and say, this is this, and it's heading here, and it's undoubtedly filled. This is almost certainly what it's carrying. And then he would say, well, now that's not supposed to be there. What the hell is that doing there? They said my grandfather was James Bond. Well, this is an absolute certain fact. He and Ian Fleming were actually very close friends. If you may be as surprised about this as I was, but the guy who wrote James Bond also wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And Chitty Chitty Bang Bang has, as its main character, the Dick Van Dyke character in the movie, is named Caractacus Potts. They like to call him Crackpot. But it's pretty much largely based on my grandfather, who was a really brilliant and in many ways a really iconoclastic guy. They had some major social event when he was stationed in Malta, I think it was, or maybe it was Egypt, and and he had a tailor make an entire suit out of burlap, and he went as, he didn't go as Lord Haha, I think, was it the name of they make fun of the guy who was the British trader? That's a little unsure about that. But in any event, yeah, just a real smart guy. And I'm trying to find a picture of my Uncle Ted, which would be my mom's younger brother, because the resemblance between myself and young Ted is actually fairly startling. So give me a second just to kind of scroll through the 10,000 pictures. I had 1,000 pictures, and then I got married, and now I have 10,000 pictures. But he is, in fact, you know, a lot of what he did found its way into James Bond's background. My grandfather wasn't, going around with a pistol in the back streets of Berlin, but he was that old school Royal Navy thing. And when I visited him, not long before he died in 1976, I went to London. There's the picture I'm looking for. Went to London in 1976 and ran into him there. And so I was wandering around London on my own, just kind of exploring things. And I had to call him for some reason. And I remember walking into a British phone booth, one of those red phone booths, and calling directory assistants and asking if they had a number for Alfred Potts. And they said, I have one for Alfred Potts OBE. And I said, that may be right, OBE. And she said, this is the operator, order the British Empire. I said, yes, that's him. And she goes, well, that's quite an achievement, she said. Something along those lines. I remember being really impressed by this. Okay, so everything you've seen so far is just trivial and essentially nothing compared to the picture you're going to see. I still, my brothers and sister and I, we still look at this picture and we still just say, really. So I've shown you a lot of pictures of my mom. I'm going to show you a picture of my dad when my dad was 17. Now I know why my entire childhood was spent with him basically sounding like Buford T. Justice. I cannot believe that you are a product of my loins. As soon as I get home, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to punch your mother in the mouth. I don't think I've seen a movie star look that good. Honest to God, I don't think I've ever seen a human being look as good as my dad did when he was 17 or 18. I have pictures of myself when I'm 17 or 18, and I look nothing like this. Political Animal says, that boy looks like trouble. You have no idea. You have no idea the kind of trouble that he was. He was... He before he met my mom, he would show up at every single Thanksgiving or Christmas with some new pinup girl calendar model or something like that. Just got to be pretty boring after a while. And then finally, when he got married, they realized, my God, he actually he picked a winner, and then the whole family just completely kind of just made a defensive circle around my mom. And that's how she got so close with Marty and Rock and how we did and all the rest of it. And just kind of quick scan for another moment or two, see if I find anything leaps out at me. Yeah, so let's compare, shall we? Let's compare and contrast. Here's a nice nice comparison. This picture of me taken at about the same time. About the same age, rather, as my dad. Oh, why did it go round like that? That's weird. Can I fix that? I don't know if I can. I really would like to have done this side by side. Nah, I can't even really see it. There I am. You'll notice the Vulcaneers on there, which I didn't actually it's not like I put those on for the photograph or anything. I had them. I had a pair of rubber ear tips, Spock ear tips, in my closet, and as I was walking out to get the picture taken, I accidentally knocked this closet door, and the ears fell out of the bag they were in, and kind of fell on my ears. Yeah, I had a really curly hair, and I didn't shake it until I got to California, which is why I'm never leaving here. Everybody says, "Why are you still in California?" It's because of the hair. This may come in better, hopefully. I think somehow it takes the big ones. It's probably a fair comparison too. Come on now. Always takes a while for me to grab these pictures for them to show up on the desktop. Did you do your show up on the desktop thing? Try it again. You know, when I think about how I felt I looked in high school, I thought, my God, I was just when I look back on it, I felt during the entire time I was in high school, I thought, Bill, you look like a troll. You just look like some kind of a science fiction creature. And now I look at this picture of myself in high school and I think, you know what? Actually, it's not too bad. Actually, if I'd had a little more confidence, come on. Why is it doing that? I just, it's not fair. If I bring it in this way, will this help? Hang on a minute. Image. Try a new image. Create new image. Okay, we want image 1460 browse. Let's see if it comes in straight this way. I have a feeling it might not. But then look at that and I thought, hey man, it's not too bad. Desktop 1460. There it is. No, it will not. Why? It's weird. Anyway, yeah. If all of you will just simply tilt your heads somewhat to the left, you begin to get the idea. If I had actually known if I had known then what I know now, I actually think I probably could have ruled the high school. I really do. But I didn't, so I didn't. Quick scan of anything else that might be right in the area here. It is fun seeing all these things, kind of going back and talking about them here. This is would have been 1995, I want to say, in Central Park, New York City. That's a pretty small picture. Yeah. Oh, the ravages of time. Oh. Thief of youth and beauty, and all these other Shakespearean terms. Yeah, that was me in 1995 in New York on Central Park. Almost there, almost at the end of the list. Just trying to see if I missed anything of monumental importance that would be of interest, which still kind of amazes me, honestly. Almost there, almost there. Nothing worse than this, honestly, than just watching a guy watch this TV screen and and every time I go through this, I tell myself I'm just going to spend a couple of hours and put together like a favorites folder, and I just don't, because it doesn't really interest me. Oh, here we go. Yeah, here we go. You will, of course, scroll back through the history of this particular Stratosphere Lounge episode and realize that I fought desperately hard against doing this, but my arm was twisted by my fans, and I can't disappoint them. You know, it's just not right. Same old staircase. We love that staircase. That's me and Steve and Evan. Actually, pretty okay picture of me. I always look like a doofus. Steve always was like super glamour kid, and this is not exactly the world's best picture, but it does give you an idea of what school life was like for me in Bermuda. This is, I can tell from the tie that this was when I was going to Warwick Academy. And I can tell from the fact that I'm wearing khaki shorts that it must be summertime. So that's what we did. And I would have, unless it was very, very hot, I probably would have had a blazer on. At our school tie, we had our short pants, we had a blazer, and we had a school crest, and then we had an enamel pin for which house we were in. And for those of you who are not sure what I mean by that, just consult your Harry Potter thing. We really did have we didn't have a Gryffindor. We had my second school, we had a Saltus, Somerset, Pembroke. What was the green one? I can't remember. Two more for you, I think. Here's one from. So in my last year or two in Bermuda, before we moved back to the States, maybe for the last 2 or 3 years there, my dad began to realize that he had kids who were getting to be 9, 10 years old, and they didn't know a whole lot about the country that they were citizens of. We knew a lot about Bermuda. To my dad's enormous credit, there were a lot of people, a lot of Americans in Bermuda who didn't do anything other than go to the base. They were Navy personnel, or they were Air Force personnel. They were either Naval Air Station, or not Naval. Bermuda had a naval station, U.S. Navy station, and they had Kinley Air Force Base on the other end of the island. And there were a lot of Americans who lived on the island who either lived on the base or who did nothing but move back and forth to the base. They never interacted with the local people, nothing. It was a tragedy. We were just Bermuda kids. But as we got older, he began to realize, maybe we should get Bill and Stevie and Evan into things where they can, where they know what the Pledge of Allegiance is and how to sing the American National Anthem. Because I've been singing God Save the Queen for most of my childhood. So in the final couple of years, we went to the Navy base and we started doing American things with the Americans there. And one of the things we did was we did Cub Scouts. Now, that's our backyard, which looks unbelievably small. Obviously, somebody's doctored this photograph because our backyard was much, much larger than that. The car you see there is called a Vauxhall. It was a Vauxhall station wagon, and even though I can read the license plate here, I could have told you before this picture came up that the license plate was P4248. P stood for private car. Our phone number on the island was 23902, and then later changed it to 80239. But there we are, Cub Scouts. Now you may notice that I'm not looking very happy here. In fact, I'm probably 20 seconds away from 100% absolute, utter, total meltdown. And I may have told this story before. I'll tell it again, but here's a picture. So shortly before this photograph was taken, my brother Steve and I had, in Cub Scouts, had been part of the hallowed tradition of the Pinewood Derby. Exactly. Some people have already got that. So for those of you not in the know, they give you a block of wood and a couple wheels and some nails, and every one of them is exactly the same, and then they put them on a ramp, and then they drop a little gate, and they race them. Now, in my right hand, it's difficult to tell, but that was one that I spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on. Hours and hours. Aerodynamics, slick that thing out, and I put like a triple kind of a cant on the front to make airflow really, really smooth, and I sprayed it blue, and then I varnished it 15 times, sanded it, painted it again, that kind of thing. Steve, on the other hand, who was never really into the whole Cub Scout thing, just took his block of wood and sprayed it red and hammered nails onto it. Now, as it turns out, at the speed of the Pinewood Derby vehicle, air resistance is not a terribly big factor when the thing is probably not exceeding 10, 15 miles an hour tops. but mass is. And so, since everybody else had gone into carving their cars and making them look like race cars and taking all this wood away and, just all this stuff, Steve didn't give a damn. He just didn't care. He wasn't really interested in it. He took the block of wood, sprayed it red, Evan's holding it, and it won first place. And I won third place. And lubricated with powdered graphite. That's exactly right. And I was so upset about the injustice of this. I wasn't upset about the fact that my brother beat me in this thing. I was upset about the fact that it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. I was upset about the fact that I had put so much work into this and Steve had not put any work into what he did at all. None. Zero. Absolutely zero effort. And he came in first. And so 30 seconds after this picture was taken, the injustice of it got so overwhelming for me that I went inside and I found a hammer and I took my third place trophy and I put it on the asphalt there and I smashed it to pieces. And this upset Steve so much that he took his first place trophy and smashed it to pieces. And then we both looked at each other and then we had that realization at that moment for both of us that the arrow of time is not reversible. I remember that moment really clearly, really clearly. I remember looking down at all this stuff and thinking, I cannot undo what I just did. It's just, I can't undo it. I felt that way when I missed an episode of Lost in Space. It's Wednesday, yeah. We're here, yeah. But Lost in Space is on Wednesday, yeah. But that means it's over, right? It's over. A lot of people often accused us, especially back in the early days of the Iraq War, they would say, you're just a keyboard commando, you're, what was the word they used for chickens? Basically you talk big and stuff, but what they didn't realize was that I had been attempting to join the military for quite a long time. Quite a long time. And I'm sure that anything like this today would be have my dad arrested for child endangerment because I was, promoting a culture of violence. Now, don't blame Steve for being in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. My dad always made sure that whenever he got us presents, he got different ones. But yeah, that's the Marine Corps dress uniform, and I loved that uniform. I loved it. I wore it all the time, and I especially remember the belt with that little, the little roller thing that catches the thing, and it's like, yeah, Steve's got a gun. I didn't need a gun because I could kill with my fists. And I remember real clearly too, real clearly. I remember how impressed I was with the globe and the anchor on the hat. I remember just thinking, man, that's just super cool. And you'll notice I have my war face on as well. Not messing around here. This is serious business. Not as serious as when I used to get dressed up as Batman and stand on the edge of the street, but nevertheless, not something you want to take lightly. Last pass. It's the first picture ever taken of me with my friend Bert Rutan. He was living in Palm Springs at the time. I flew out to see him in the Sky Arrow, and it was snowing. I couldn't get through El Cajon Pass. I could not get out to Palm Springs. I had to stop at Banning, not El Cajon Pass, Banning Pass. I had to land at Banning Airport, and Bert drove like 2 hours out to say hi, and that's us in front of the Sky Arrow, and then he said, "Hey, we're moving up to an undisclosed location." And I said, "Wow, an undisclosed location? I've heard that's really beautiful." He said, "Yeah, come on up for the 4th of July." So we did. I'm skipping over a significant number of things here, just trying to see if I can. Here's some oldies. Okay, this will probably do it. When I say that 9 times, as fans of the show know, that's the 9th time is when I'm serious. But here's like a little gold mine. Here's when I heard that my mom had passed away, this was the picture that came to mind. The picture that I put up on the post is how I always remember. But when I'd heard that she'd finally been released from this hell, this was what came to mind. I think that might be Malta. I can definitely tell you where the next one is from on account of there's a large clue. Let's see how many of you out there are able to determine from the visual clue buried in this next photograph. How many of you out there are going to be able to sleuth out where my mom was at the time when that was taken? I know it's a challenge. I'll give you more time if you want. The little Jeopardy counter is a dingin'. This is back when being a tourist in Egypt wasn't like being a tourist in Egypt today. My mom actually went into the tomb of Tutankhamun, and she didn't go in on a guided tour. It's like, oh, I heard there's rediscovered a tomb back in. Yes. Can I see it? Sure. Here you go. And so she got on a camel and went and saw it. And this would be... I'm not gonna hit you with... There's not a whole lot left anyway, but this one is one of my all-time favorites, actually. Yes, very much. When you think about your childhood, everybody's childhood is different, obviously, and mine was very fortunate. You know what? I'm trying to get out of the habit of saying fortunate, because it wasn't like the fortune fairy came down and tapped my dad on the shoulder and said, "I've decided, ding, to give you a new life." He worked really, really hard, to get to where he was. But when I think about my childhood, this is the picture I think of. This is, let me blow it up a little bit. It's at the Carlton Beach Hotel out back. We had a little putting green there. That's yours truly on the left there, paying strict attention to the next shot. That's my brother Steve, who never really gave a damn of anything. And by the way, we were on the fifth hole there. But yeah, that's my dad and my mom. And that's how I remember them. So I just love that picture of Steve. I just love it, and it's just a really fun picture, and this is what I think about. I'll occasionally mention this to Natasha. We'll be driving around someplace at nighttime or something, and we will pass any kind of a building that's got trees lighted at nighttime. I know that sounds like a odd statement, but you get the idea. All these bushes, all these trees, all the way down the side of the hotel, all of them had green and red and purple lights on them at nighttime. And we used to go out after dinner and we would just go hide and play in those bushes. And so my entire childhood is just a picture of just anytime I see a green or purple or blue lights on trees or bushes, it's like just takes me back there like a rocket. This is the one that I couldn't show anybody until after both of my parents had passed away because of the legal consequences. But now that they're both gone, no action can really be taken against them, so I'm free to show it now. Here we are. Me in the middle, Evan on the left, and Steve on the right. Yeah, you're not imagining that. We're playing with a toy gun. Yes, our parents let us have toy guns, and I know that the presence of those toy guns just drove me to moments of homicidal rage that were only prevented at the last minute through the intercession of healthcare professionals. as I got older, um, I actually never really got over my particular. Why does it do that? Fascination with the toy guns. There's another toy gun that I got many years later, and as I'm sure you know by now, uh, unfortunately, that rifle was lost in a tragic boating accident 6-7 months ago. I'm on a roll, so let's stay on a roll. My dad was manager of Carlton Beach Hotel and moved to Miami. Then we moved back to Bermuda for 7 or 8 months, where he opened. He was the first manager of this hotel called the Southampton Princess. And so this is the second hotel that I kind of grew up in. And the reason I like this one is it shows you a little bit about the water. And that's where I was all the time, out in that water, which is pretty amazing. I've never seen water like it, and I don't know that I ever will. Yeah, I know this spot really well too. I used to go here all the time. Strange place, actually, Bermuda. It's a volcanic island. It's a volcano poking its way up out of the Atlantic in the way that Hawaii does in the Pacific. So you got this really kind of harsh, uh, you know, igneous rock. And in fact, the top surface of it almost is like bubbled because of it coming out of a volcano. But the water was amazing and crystal clear. And because I don't know if I have a picture of this, because there was so much coral, ground coral in the beaches. Bermuda has pink sand beaches, and you don't really see it here, but in other pictures, it's really, really clear. Here's a guy who got to Germany in April of '45, so had a chance to enjoy the last 3 weeks of World War II in Germany. And then was fully prepared to get on the boat to, the invasion of the Japanese mainland, and he didn't think he was coming back from that one, and neither did anybody else who was being sent over there. He was a lieutenant, second lieutenant, I want to say, in the Army in Europe, intelligence officer. He's told me two things, both of which I have a hard time believing. But then again, he hardly ever spoke about this, and he was not known to brag about things that he didn't do. So the two stories of my dad's service in the Army that stand out to me is, one of them was, he said that he was present at the Nuremberg trials, and that he was one of the guys who stood underneath the scaffold. He was 21 years old, I think. Stood underneath the scaffold when they had convicted the Nazi war criminals, and he was there with a stopwatch, and down they would go. It'd be dropped in the hang, and he would sit there with a stopwatch, and he would have a little clipboard, and he wrote down how long it took before the doctor went over there and said, yeah, another one of these bastards is gone. So he looks like he's ready for serious business there. And the other one that he told me, and this story is just simply too incredible to be made up, but he told me that in the closing years of the war, he had been given an assignment. He was. See, this is the thing. This is why I actually believe my dad. He was not only crystal clear, but emphatically clear that he had not been in combat in World War II. He'd never shot a gun. He'd never been shot at. He got there in the middle of April of '45, so it was pretty much over by the time he got there. So he wasn't given to bragging about that, but he did say that he had this assignment. Like I said, this is too unusual to not be true. So they said, okay, Whittle, yes, we got a job for you. Okay. I want you to take Sergeant so-and-so over there. He's a demolitions expert. Okay. And we want you to go to Landsberg Prison, which we've recently captured. Okay. And we want you to go find the cell that Adolf Hitler wrote Mein Kampf in, and we want you to blow it up. Yes, sir. Why do we want to blow this up? Because we don't want a shrine. There's a great deal of concern, actually, in the American Army and in a lot of people in the days right after World War II, a lot of concern that there was going to be, Operation Werewolf, where there would just be Nazi partisans forever. The idea that we could just denazify the country in a year seemed impossible to believe. So he was given the task to go to Lenzburg prison, find the cell that Adolf Hitler wrote Mein Kampf in, and blow it up. Not the whole building, just the cell. The idea being that they were trying to destroy any kind of philosophical rallying places for Nazis at the end of World War II. So he did, and this is the story he said. He said, so we went in there and we planted these minor charges, not a big deal, not like we're going to bring the building down. We just want to blow things up so it doesn't look. Here's how it looked when Hitler wrote the book, because that's how it was being preserved. So he and this sergeant went in there and placed the charges, did all this other stuff. And as they were walking out of the building, as American soldiers are wont to do at that time, apparently, they were walking out of the building, getting ready to blow this place. And they looked down and they said, that's a nice chair. And furthermore, that's the chair that Adolf Hitler sat in when he wrote Mein Kampf. I'm going to bet that chair's worth some money. And it turns out it undoubtedly would have been. So my dad and the sergeant take this chair with them for analysis back at HQ. And according to my dad, they got lost. They weren't behind enemy lines, but they thought they might be. They were in this barn, and it was really, really, really cold, and they were basically freezing to death, so they took an axe and they broke Hitler's chair into little pieces and made a fire out of it, and that's how my dad got through the evening, and that's why I'm here. Make of it what you will. To me, that is the kind of thing that sounds bizarre enough to be true. Hey, look, it's a chair. Why don't we take it with us? It's really, really cold here, and we're going to freeze to death. Well, then I guess we got no choice. We might as well just burn this chair. It's a shame, because we probably could have gotten a couple $100 for it. Here we go. Last one. Last one. And last one for the show, because it's time for me to go home. I'm tired. I adore this picture. I love it so. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. We had occasional celebrity guests at the hotel, and this was one of them. For those of you who may have been born tragically late, yes, it's Jonathan Winters. It sure enough is, and I don't know the backstory on this because Dad is pretty young there. I was certainly there because I was there when we moved from New York to Bermuda. But the thing I like about this is somebody, a political animal in the comment section live just said that it looks like my dad just pulled a prank. I don't think that's it at all. I think that what had happened, and I'm sure this is how it happened, was that my dad had Jonathan Winters there, who was just starting to get to be pretty big famous. And that he had Jonathan Winters at the hotel, and this putting green, as you saw from the other pictures, is literally right out the door from the dining room. So we went down there at lunch and said, hey, Mr. Winters, we're very glad to have you here. Fantastic. Hey, would you mind coming out and just taking a picture with us for the hotel? We're very honored to have you here. And I'm sure Jonathan Winters said, no, I think that'd be fine. I'd love to. Mr. Whittle, that'd be great. I'm looking forward to it. A lovely, lovely place you have here. And I have no doubt whatsoever, none, that Jonathan Winters went out there serious as can be with my dad, and they got lined up for the picture, and they're ready to take the picture, and the photographer's there. And just the second before they pulled the trigger on that picture, he did this. Something to the effect of, the salmon was a little undercooked last night, and I'm going to kill you for it. That's the expression that I see on my dad's face. Is I don't think my dad set up the prank. I think my dad is. He's in this defensive position. He really is. He's got his hands up. He's got his fists balled. He's getting ready to defend himself against this lunatic, and Jonathan Winters is so good at being Jonathan Winters that. I mean, look at this. He's just, to say he stuck the expression is to understate the case. He really, I'm sure that's exactly what happened. They were just sitting there ready for a standard picture. And just before they took it, he said something to the effect of, I'm going to kill you. I'm just going to kill you right now. I'm going to beat you to death with this putting putter here, and I don't think my dad knew what to do with that. So anyway, yeah, it was a charmed and charming life, and and I'm a lucky guy. My dad wasn't lucky. This was the picture I was actually looking for. If this comes, I hope this comes in one piece. I know I said I was done, but I lied. Now, I want you to understand the amount of moral courage it takes for me to show you this picture, because I'm not joking about this now. This is something that's not something I really particularly want to advertise. Come in. It did. So, for your viewing edification, here's me at 17, and here is my father at 17. And let's see if either of you can tell which one of them was more successful in the dating scene in their high school careers. I look like a Muppet. That's a generous way of putting it. Yeah. Uh-huh. And now you know. Now you know. This constant, ongoing sort of stress that I had with my dad. Him constantly saying, I cannot believe that you came from my loins. It's just not, it's not possible. I still don't believe that picture of my dad is real. It's him, but I don't know. It looks like, I look like, in order to get to me, it's like my dad would have had to have sex with a pumpkin. I think that's probably the only way I can explain the outcome there. That's about all I can do. But there you go. You asked for it, and I'm actually very, very happy to have done it. That was really a lot of fun, and it gets to a point where it's like I can't even talk about politics anymore, because if I do, I'm going to lose my mind. Yeah. So of all the last pictures that I'm going to show you, and here's the last of the last pictures I'm going to show you. I did actually, by the way, this is the second to last. This is the penultimate last. Actually, there's 3 more. Actually, there's 4 more. See, this is what you started it. I didn't ask for it. Coming off of that last picture, this nightmare, not long after I got out of college, I actually, the one on the left would have been 1976, 1977, and this one was 1985, I want to say, and that is bitchin' bad new wave look. That's a big improvement. I love that picture on the right. I love it. It's actually what do they call it? A contact sheet clipping. But yeah, man, I had my white satin tie, skinny tie with the Japanese lettering just below the frame. Had the shoulder pads that came out. You couldn't get 2 people in a doorway at the same time. Had that long ass hair, and I would straighten it, and it would last like that for about 6 hours, and then the Miami humidity would take over, and it would turn back into a pumpkin. All right. So here I found another couple of, and I found a good one, I think, to leave us with. This is. I just love this picture. I love most of them, but this one. This is the picture I posted on the Facebook page of that one photo was how I always remember my mom. This is the picture, honest and truly, this is the picture of that I always remember my dad. Let's not forget that he is an American, grew up in New York. He grew up in the Pocono Mountains, but basically, American all his life. And here he is in Man-frickin-Hattan. I think that's probably the plaza behind him. Not 100% sure about that, but it looks like it could be or should be. It might be Central Park on the right there. And he is on a business trip in New York City in the wintertime, and Rubber City Rebels got it. It's like, I'm from Bermuda, damn it, you're exactly right. The people in the government of Bermuda gave him a lot of praise for representing Bermuda as Bermuda. He's an American hotel manager of an American hotel, but he was just super, super proud of that. And attached to this is one of the great stories of all time. You can see, by the way, if you look closely, that what he's wearing, that crest there on the jacket, I've forgotten the Latin, but it's the coat of arms of Bermuda, and it's the coat of arms of the shipwreck of the Sea Venture. That was the shipwreck that inspired the Tempest, and it's been a long, long time, but that is the kind of the coat of arms of Bermuda. So here's the story. So this is, you ever want to know anything about my dad, this is all you need to know about my dad, and ultimately it's really all you need to know about me, because I've got this in me too. So my dad is in New York with my mom, and he's on a sales trip, and I'm sure we were visiting as well. And so he's out there doing his thing. He's going to various hotels and travel agencies, and he's basically, selling the Carlton Beach Hotel. So there he is, and he's dressed in the national clothing of Bermuda. This is the cultural clothing. This is what Bermudians wear at dress occasions. So after a day like this, after a day of this, it's time to go out for dinner. And my dad had been a manager at the Roosevelt Hotel in New York. I was born in New York City in Manhattan. We lived across the river in West New York, New Jersey. And so my dad knew New York really well. It wasn't like he just arrived off the train. He'd been there for pretty near a decade as a businessman. So he knew it was New York. So we went out to dinner. Needless to say, went out to the 21 Club. And he got to the 21 Club with my mom, and they wouldn't let him in. Quo fera ferent, what the fates command, is that what that means? I got the Latin from Astronerd, but I want to say that quo fata ferent means what the fates command, or what the fates decree, something like that. That's what's on the bottom there. Anyway, so my dad goes out to the 21 Club, which he had been to many, many, many times, and he's there with his beautiful wife, and he gets turned away at the door because he's wearing short pants, and my dad got so outraged about this. He was incandescent, because number one, he'd been there many times. Number two, is extremely embarrassing, and my dad was sensitive to these kind of things. Incandescent, and he argued with this guy for 15 minutes, whatever the fates bring. Thank you. Argued with this guy for 10 or 15 minutes. I said, sir, I'm sorry. And it wasn't like, a lot of restaurants will have a jacket or a tie to lend you if you don't have one, or they thought it was, but no one has a spare pair of pants. Yes, exactly, Marusha. He was apoplectic. My mom said she thought we really should take a cab to the hospital because she thought he was going to burst every blood vessel in his head. He simply lost his mind. He was so angry about this. But the great part of the story is that my mom said we then spent the most miserable 2 hours of my life in a cab, spending hundreds of dollars, back when $100 was a lot of money, driving around Manhattan, my dad insisting that this cab driver stay with him, and driving around Manhattan because my dad was determined to find a Scotsman in a Scottish kilt. He was going to search New York from the basement to the attic of every single one of those buildings until he could find a Scotsman in a kilt, at which point he would have paid this guy some incredible sum of money to basically get in the cab and then go back to the 21 Club with my dad standing off to the side, and he was just waiting for this guy to come up to the door and have the doorman say, "Oh well, of course we can let you in. You're obviously a Scotsman. This is what Scots people wear when they're out on the town." Mom said he was going everywhere. Anything that had the word Scottish in it, well, we're going to go look at the Scottish Club. You never did. Couldn't do it. But that is so much him. That's just so much him, and I get that way myself sometimes. I just get like, I'm gonna just take a breath, Bill. So, like I said, 2 more. You know what? I'm not going to show that. I'm just not. It was a picture of me and my dad at Gettysburg, but, you know, he put on some weight then, and why? This is the picture I'm going to leave you with. This is what my life was growing up. This is it. I don't really even, I mean, I need to tell you a little bit about it because it's a little odd. But if you want to know what my life was like between the ages of 4 and 12, it was pretty much this. So, I talked on the Facebook page about my mom about scuba diving, but before we were scuba diving, we were helmet diving. Those fish, the striped fish in front of me is called a sergeant major, and the one with the spot on his tail in front of my brother is called a bream. There was a guy in Bermuda who built these things, and when I say built them, I don't mean manufactured them. I mean these are essentially just 3 plates of glass hammered together. They're probably hammered together out of picture frames and attached to a pretty heavy shoulder thing. And then there is a hose attached to the top, which you can't see. And then directly above, and as I recall, yes, we didn't even get in a boat. On the shore above was a generator. Not a generator, a compressor. And so what this guy did was he had this concession. It was a tourism concession. And you would put this helmet on, and once you got in the water, we put it on the water. It's pretty heavy out of the water, but with buoyancy and stuff, since it's filled with air, it didn't really weigh too much. And you would have a little weight belt, and you would go down to the bottom of the bay, sandy ocean floor, maybe 12, 15 feet deep, maybe something, not certainly not much more than that. And you could simply walk around, and they give you stuff to feed the fish, and these fish would come and eat it right out of your hand. And so we did this when we were 5 or 6 or 7 or something, which I thought was pretty cool. But I also realized, no, it's very, very shrewd business on the part of my dad. Not on the part of my dad, on the part of the guy who ran this concession. There's a picture of my dad in a helmet. It's my all-time favorite picture of my dad. More important even than the one I just showed you, but I can't find it. I'm not going to look for it now. But the genius of this picture is that the guy who ran this concession took us out there, and we had so much fun. We just loved it. But the genius of it was that the guy who ran the helmet diving concession would come to the hotel, and in the cocktail lounge, before things got, lovely, they would show documentaries and have light entertainment and that kind of thing. And this guy would come in once every 2 weeks or so, and he would show pictures and slides of this and say, you should come on down and do some helmet diving. And I know a lot of you are wondering, is it safe? So I thought we'd bring up a couple of people who we had there recently, and they can talk about whether it was safe or not. And then they'd call us, and Stevie and I would go up there in our little blazers and our bow ties, and we would talk about how awesome it was to go helmet diving. And this guy's just standing there. He's thinking, I've got this 7-year-old and 6-year-old kid talking about how awesome it is. And yeah. So we were I still haven't been paid for that advertising, and that's why I live in a state of such perpetual rage and envy. But nevertheless, that's it. Always be closing. I think I'm going to call it a night, folks. I'm very glad that we got a chance to do that. Thank you for asking for that. And I've always been reluctant to do it because I always feel like, who could possibly be interested in this? Isn't this the definition of boring? Let me show you some pictures of some slides of our trip to Yosemite. But I guess I do lose track sometimes of how just really exceptional it was. And somebody said, show us how show us how far you outkicked your coverage with a side-by-side picture of 17-year-old Bill and a 17-year-old Russian beauty. Outkick the coverage. I might be able to do that. Hang on. That's a special request, but if I have it, I know where it is. So unlike the other ones where I'm just kind of scanning through, I will look and see if I can find a picture of how far I outkicked the coverage. You talk about marrying up. My dad married up, but nothing like the way I did. And let me see if it's handy here. Just give me a second. 2016. Come on. Somewhere in here. Moment, please. Let's see if I can answer that question for you. It's worth the wait. That's all I have to say. Especially for me, I waited 58 years or 57, something like that. Come on now. Here we go. Close. We're definitely in the ballpark here. There it is. Yeah. Now she's a little older than high school here, but I would say probably in her mid-20s. So yeah, when you were looking at Pumpkin Boy, this guy here, through all kinds of dark magic and alchemy and spells, somehow managed to marry this person here. And you may notice a small discrepancy. It's such a gigantic discrepancy. I really do have a hard time believing she's in the next room, honestly. I sometimes just have to go check. But yeah, that's me and my wife, Natasha. I was probably 17 or 18. I think Natasha's probably in her early 20s there. Yeah. Screw you, Dad. You loser. So, anyway, yeah, it's lots of people are, oh my gosh, my goodness, good Lord, looks like a Bond girl. Yeah, I kind of have to deal with this every day, where I just simply wake up and just say that, ding, all the cartoon sounds that are so romantic and go such a long way to providing respect for your spouse. Nothing like the manly appeal of listening to a guy making cartoon rabbit noises first thing in the morning. Yeah. So anyway, there we are, the happy couple. And God, I just look at this and I just okay, whatever. Okay, John Persing wins the internet. I'll never forgive you for this, John. Don't get me wrong. It's a mortal insult, and I won't forget it. But he basically looked at this, and he looked at these two pictures, and he said it is a composite of a supermodel and a failed science experiment. Yeah, that's the sound I was looking for. Thanks, Scorch. Awooga. Yeah, failed science experiment. Yeah, that's it. So anyway, there's some family reminiscences for all of you. I hope that'll hold you until next week. I should have some pictures of our trip to Yosemite. 3.5 hours worth of slides, and yeah. Here's one for you to. There's one for the road. Now, she hates that picture. She hates it. I love it. I think it's awesome. But since she hates it, we'll just edit it out. Okay, kids, that'll do it for this edition of the Stratosphere Lounge. Very grateful, cure lights on, blah blah blah, etc., so and so on. Give me a C, bouncy C. Made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com, who we are eternally grateful for, and believe it or not, whom Natasha and I are constantly on a near daily basis, just pretty much grateful for. Haven't been to work in 7 years now, 8 years. It's a long time to be not having to work. Just kicking around doing my 10 shows a week or whatever it is we do. So anyway, thanks to all of you for your membership as always, and I guess that'll do it. We are going to be out of town talking about making some more earth-shaking content next Thursday, but we will do the show probably Friday, if not earlier, but I think probably Friday. Okay. Alrighty then. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you right here next time on the very one and only Stratosphere Lounge.